All right. Good morning. Good morning. It's Tuesday, August the 11th, 2020. And here we are live on the American Gumption morning show. And I'm laughing because I just talked for 3 minutes without hitting the live button and then realized I wasn't going. I'm getting all these messages from Facebook saying, hey, if you don't go live in 10 minutes, we're going to cancel your show. And I'm like, well, I'm on live. And then I realized I wasn't live because I forgot to hit the go live button at the beginning. I remembered to hit the countdown timer and the theme song. And then I had a brilliant 2 minutes worth of monologue already spewed out when I realized that I had not gone live. So there's a famous line from the movie Forrest Gump. It goes something like, stupid is as stupid does. And I guess I'll have to wear that one for just a minute. And then I'll forgive myself and we'll move on. All right. So anyway, today's going to be a fun show. I'm going to do something a little different than I've done the last 5 shows. I'm going to repeat what I did on show number 1 in that I'm going to go solo. I'm going to just monologue the whole time. So I've got a series of different things I'm going to talk about. Some of them were things I touched lightly on in that first show. And now I'm going to go ahead and expand on that a little bit. That'll be in the second half hour. And the other thing I'm going to say up front is that I'm not going to hold myself accountable for a full 60 minutes. We've already shortened it by 3 minutes just by virtue of starting late. But I'll just go as long as I feel like I've got the things that I want to talk about. So it's going to be about an hour long, at least 50 minutes or so, or maybe it's going to be 45. But anyway, that's what I'll do. I'll just ramble on today. I got, like I said, I got a plan here. There it is, right there. That's what I'm going to follow. That's my script. All right. So the first thing I want to do, and after I kind of run through the whole series of what I'm going to do overall, is I'm going to talk about the 3rd anniversary party again. And that was last Saturday. And it was Spirituality Gone Wild's 3rd anniversary. And yesterday I talked about some of the sponsors and about some of the founders of other organizations that have really made Spirituality Gone Wild come to life. And today I'm going to focus on the host. So I'm the host of American Gumption, and there are a whole handful, two handfuls of hosts that are on Spirituality Gone Wild, and we'll just throw the mugshot of all of them up and tell you what the name of their show is, or at least tell you what time or about what time their show is aired. So that'll be I'll spend a few minutes doing that. I'm going to introduce a new series, and this is right at the point when I realized that I wasn't live. So from here on, it's cutting fresh territory. The 1994, the movie Forrest Gump came out. It came out on July the 6th, 1994. And last year, 2019, July the 6th, was the 25th anniversary. So I put together a series of short little videos, the 94 best scenes from the movie Forrest Gump in honor of the 25th anniversary. Came out in 1994, so 94 best scenes. Could have had 107 best scenes, could have had 120 best scenes, but had to limit it to 94. And today I'm going to focus on scene number 85, and it's called Technical Difficulties. So you'll remember the scene when you see it, and that's coming up. And I think I'm doing the technical difficulties because I had some technical difficulties at the start of today's show, and I had some technical difficulties at the end of yesterday's show. And so that lesson of how do we deal with technical difficulties is really an important one that I'm going to need to remind myself of and remember. So we'll get to that in just a few minutes. The last half hour of the show or so, I'm going to talk more about the Gumption brands. And I mentioned those at the very end of the very first show that I did a week ago Monday, but I went through it quick, and I want to take a few more minutes to kind of go through each one and just lay out what my vision is as far as how I see the different Gumption brands all fitting in underneath the American Gumption umbrella, and why I have different brands and why I think it's important to have different brands. So anyway, that we'll spend the end of the show doing that. I won't promise to do the full 60 minutes. I'll cut it off when I feel like I've said what I need to say. And so then I might be a little bit shorter show, maybe 45 or 50 minutes long when we're all done. All righty. So the very next thing I want to do is I want to jump in and talk some more about the there it is, the third anniversary speed networking event for Spirituality Gone Wild, the Rainbow Connection, infinite collaboration. So we had a 5-hour marathon. Debbie G put that together. She was really the driving force to make that happen. A lot of people helped her out, and our MC and our other collaborators behind the scenes to make that all. We're grateful that all came together. But today I want to just share who the other hosts were on that. Who participated on Saturday, and who tell you about the other guest here or the other host of that are on Spirituality Gone Wild. So I mentioned TJ Woodward yesterday, and the reason why I mentioned him yesterday was that his show typically appears on Monday evenings, and he is the author of a best-selling book, conscious transformation or conscious recovery. And so he talks about how we can get rid of the addictions that are in our lives, and how we can forgive ourselves and move on, and not just some of the traditional ways that people have done, but in a way that really allows us to forgive ourselves and the underlying root of what some of that is, so that we just adopt new behaviors. Anyway, his show was last night, I believe, and I wasn't able to see it, and so I don't know if it actually aired or not. But typically on Monday nights you can find TJ here on our network. Here is the great leader of our group, Debbie G, and she does quite a few shows throughout the week. And I'm not even going to tell you exactly what the names of the shows are and what the time is, because Debbie G shows up whenever she wants to, and she does whatever shows she wants to. That's the privilege you have when you are one of the founders of the site. So thank you, Debbie G. And she did a heck of a lot of work last 3 weeks getting ready for this. The day I met her, she was preparing for the anniversary show, and she was being very generous with her time to help me get up and running, at the same time putting together the show that took place on Saturday. So thank you, Debbie G. All right. David Strickle, The Stream of David. David appears on Wednesday nights here on Spirituality Gone Wild. I think it's around 3 or 4 o'clock Pacific time, so early evening on the East Coast. But why don't you subscribe to Spirituality Gone Wild and hit the button that says give me notifications whenever we go live, and then you'll make sure you see David's show. David's I got to know him a little bit on Saturday, and I'm really looking forward to learning from him as time goes on. And somewhere down the road, we'll get David to come out early in the morning and join us here on the American Gumption morning show. If you were here last Friday, you met Joe Atalig, and Joe does his show on Saturday mornings. And this past Saturday, so Joe was actually on right an hour before the anniversary show started. And Joe, this last weekend, he interviewed a woman who does needlepoint. Well, it's not just needlepoint. She told a story about needlepoint, and she manages an RV park in Tennessee or North Carolina, and COVID came along and got shut down, and she created a series of 6 needle points that told the story of COVID. And the first artwork was about how there was a whole lot of people talking, and there was a whole lot of different stories going on. And then it broke out into sides and then the battles and what's right. And so anyway, she went through a whole series of 6. It was fascinating. And this was her little gift to it. She just didn't have a lot to do and loves needlepoint. And so she did the first one, and then she realized it was a series so she ended up doing 6 of them and showed all of them on a show. So you can go back and watch that. It was a great show. Good job, Joe. And thanks for coming and being a guest here last Friday morning. And our guest last Tuesday, 1 week ago today, was Radiance Tyler, aka Mimi Burns. And Radiance does her show on Sunday evenings, and I got to watch her show. This Sunday she did a interview with a Scottish frontman for a rock band, and I forget his name now, but it was fascinating to hear the story of how he grew up and wanted to kind of grew up into musicianhood and then eventually front of the band, and it was a little bit challenging because we had to listen hard to hear the English through the Scottish, but it was a fun show, and I really enjoyed that. And so and not to be outdone with technical difficulties, Radiance had her own technical difficulties at the beginning of the show. So hey, we are all learning how to use StreamYard. What do I say? You gotta walk, talk, skip, chew gum, and whistle Dixie backwards at the same time if you want to run StreamYard properly. All right, so we're all learning how to do this. Let's see, who's next? Oh, there I am. So I'm doing the Monday through Friday morning show from 7 to 8 a.m. Pacific, 10 to 11 on the East Coast, and the goal is to be a variety show, have a monologue, talk about Gumption, talk about some of the movie life lessons, have a guest on, maybe 2 guests on, promote some of the other guest host shows, and basically be kind of an anchor for Spirituality Gone Wild in the morning until we end up with some more morning guests. All righty. Now here's our other co-founder, Karen Palmer. And I, again, like Debbie G, I don't know all of the names of Karen's shows. I do know that she is Miss Kindness, and she talks about kindness. That's a recurring theme in everything she does. But Karen is really also responsible for all of these sponsors that you see there, Unify and Sign. She's the one who has been doing this work for the longest time and is connected with a lot of different people and brings them all together. So she's a guest on other people's shows. She's having other people on her shows, and you'll see her all the time at the time on Spirituality Gone Wild. Please do find the Spirituality Gone Wild Facebook page and like it, and then ask to get reminded whenever we go live. It's and then you choose which ones you'll want to watch. You just get a little notice, so it's a nice, easy way to do it. So, and thanks again for being one of our co-founders, Karen. Safe Buxy is from England, and Safe and I trained together on StreamYard by Radiance the day that we did the training. But Safe has already been doing the show for 6 or 7 weeks, and so he had quite a few shows under his belt. But he was just getting so I've never seen Safe make a mistake on StreamYard. He has the ability to walk, skip, and chew gum all at the same time. Safe talks about his own recovery, and his business is working in helping addicts and people recover, being a behavioral coach. And so he always has an interesting guest somewhere, and he finds these guests from around the world, not just in the UK, and he'll have a conversation with them. And that show is on Thursday nights, I believe around well, I'm not even sure what time it is now. It must be late afternoon our time, because it's on the Thursday evening UK time. So I'm thinking it's maybe 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock East Coast time, and earlier on the West Coast. I apologize for not knowing for sure, but hey, it's only my week 2. I'm still learning. But I've invited Safe to be a guest. Could happen this Thursday. We're still negotiating. His agent's tough, and I've put out a couple of offers, and so we'll see if we can meet in the middle, and I can meet his high fee. So I'm of course just having fun with that. All right, so hopefully he'll be a guest either this Thursday or next Thursday or one of these Thursdays coming up, and we'll talk a lot about what he does. Josie Ramirez Herndon, Josie Herndon, was our guest last Thursday. And so her show also is Thursday evening. And so I was thinking Josie's show was before Saif's show, but I think it's the other way around. So I think Josie's show is around 6 o'clock Pacific time, 9 o'clock Eastern time. And that's every Thursday night. And her show is called Drama to Dharma. So it's it's about how do we let go of all of that craziness that our lives are filled with, and how do we just create a life of dharma for ourselves and get rid of the drama. I've been working on that, so I'm going to always listen Thursday nights because there's always more drama you can get rid of. All right, looking forward to getting to know Josie better and collaborating. Whoops, I just lost that last slide. Oh boy, who was that? I clicked the button too fast. I'll add him tomorrow because I'm not going to search around and do it. I have enough technical difficulties that once a technical thing flies out, we just go with it. So the last host who I clicked on and disappeared will be our very first person that we mentioned tomorrow when we talk a little more about what happened last Saturday afternoon, evening. All righty. So that's a wrap up on today's update on what happened again at the Spirituality Gone Wild 3rd anniversary party. All righty. Now here is a show that, or I should say a feature, a segment that I have not done before. And let's see if I have that page still around here. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm going to clean up. Give me just a second to clean up where I'm at. That's not what I want. Where is this? Let's see if I can find it this way. Here we go. Here it is. All right. Technical difficulties, and that's all. All right, so I'm going to introduce this and then I'll play this video. So again, what happened was I created 94 best scenes, life lessons from the movie Forrest Gump in honor of the 25th anniversary last year. So they're 1 to 2 minute videos. They have a little musical intro and I say a few words about it and I show, 20 seconds or so of the movie and then do a quick little analysis. So I'm going to play that and then I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about it a little more in depth. And so this is the 85th best scene from the movie Forrest Gump as determined by me and my analysis of that scene. All I have to say about that. Hi, I'm Steve Weber, and today is day 10 of 94. And here is the 85th best scene from the movie Forrest Gump as rated by me.
In Vietnam,
Forrest's speech was not heard by the large crowd at the Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool because of technical difficulties. Of course, the technical difficulties were caused by sabotage.
Why are they doing this?
We never heard Forrest's speech. His words were apparently very moving. I've given enough talks and presentations to know that technical difficulties happen. It's never fun, but the show must go on.
That's all I have to say about that.
Here's the thing. We can get mad or we can just deal with it. Getting mad doesn't make for a better presentation. Forrest Gump probably didn't even know that his voice wasn't being amplified. He was just speaking from his heart. It takes gumption to speak from your heart, and it takes gumption to not get distracted by distractions. Let's all be more like Forrest. Let's all be more Gump-like, and let's all live our life with gumption. And that's all I have to say about that. All right. One more little, sometimes sometimes I feel like somebody's like jumping into the back of my, oh boy, let's hold on a second. Let's quiet that down. All right. So, yeah, sometimes when you're doing StreamYard and you're walking and skipping and chewing gum and blowing bubbles and turning around backwards every third or fourth step, something weird happens and you feel like somebody came running in and pulled the plugs out of it. So this morning I was live. I was not live. I had started my show and I was 3 minutes into it when I realized that I didn't hit the go live button. Go figure. And I've only done the show 6 times, so it's a simple mistake. And yesterday I had a weird thing at the end of the show where my browser, my video part went frozen, and yet the voice was perfectly fine with my guest, Brandon Schaefer. And so Brandon was a great sport, and we muscled through the end of the interview just by voice, and he couldn't see me because I was frozen, but I could hear him and he could hear me, but I wasn't able to do any of the controls anymore. So anyway, I felt like somebody yanked out the wires. That scene from the movie is I called it technical difficulties, but I could have called it, a great speech, because that was really what had happened. Forrest got encouraged by Abby Hoffman to come up on stage. He didn't know what he was doing. And they said, go ahead and tell him about the war. And he says, well, which war? And, the one in Vietnam. And so Forrest isn't there to protest or to tell people what he thinks. He's just there experiencing life, and he gets caught up at a moment where he gets, he goes with the flow, and the flow is other soldiers who are falling in the line and marching forward, and they invite Forrest to give a speech, and he gives a speech, and everybody who hears it has like a tear in their eye. And then of course the microphone comes on, the part where they plug all the wires back in, and right at the moment when Forrest says, that's all I have to say about that. And that was one of those lines that is very memorable. And I used that line when I was sitting on the bench over and over again. That's all I have to say. Is that all you have to say about that? And everybody knew that line. So it was great. And isn't it great if you can just get to the point and say something to where we know what we're talking about, and we're definitive, and it's really all that needs to be said, and we say, that's all I have to say about that, as opposed to rambling on. I'm going to remind myself to not do too much of that this day when I ramble on. But the point is that Forrest gave a heartfelt speech, and he ended it with that's all it's to say about that. He didn't get distracted when suddenly you couldn't hear and people were yelling, I can't hear. He was just speaking and doing what he was doing. And of course, technical difficulties do happen. And as I pointed out in the video, what are you going to do about it? You're going to get mad? Yesterday was a great opportunity for me to, after the show, to go, okay, well, that's what happens. And, I wasn't pleased that it happened. And I spent just a couple of minutes, feeling like, gosh darn it, I wish that hadn't happened. But then, you go, well, let's move on. I got other things to worry about, and it's not the end of the world. And I kind of figured out a plan if that ever happens again. So we'll see what happens going forward. So, and then a friend of mine last night sent me a message and said, hey, good show. The little hiccup at the end, that was kind of entertaining. So anyway, it was overall a good show. And I was like, all right, cool. So that's how we're going to roll with this. When technical difficulties happen, we're just going to roll with them, and we're going to make the best out of them. And, I'm going to try to get better at it, and, not repeat the same mistakes all the time, but, just eliminate them one by one. And pretty soon they won't happen too often. So that's the plan. So when technical difficulties happen, move forward, learn from it, and then just make it better next time. And that's what Gump did. And also, when you're asked to speak from your heart. Speak from your heart. That's the important thing. And that's all I have to say about that. All righty. Well, that's enough of that. Let's see if we can get rid of this window. There it goes. Now I'm going to switch gears, and I'm right on schedule. So I'm going to switch gears, and I'm going to talk about some of the Gumption brands. I think this is what I want. Yes, here we go. American Gumption. So I talked about this the last 10 minutes or so of the show on Monday, and I felt like I kind of rushed through it. I gave like a quick overview, and I'd like to go just a little bit deeper and explain to you folks what I'm thinking about how this all is going to work. So for me, American Gumption is the brand. It's the big picture. It's the main brand, and all of the other Gumption brands that I'm going to mention fit underneath of it. So when I was negotiating with Debbie G to be a morning show host, on Spirituality Gone Wild, I was like, well, what am I going to name the show? And she said, you're going to name it American Gumption. And I was like, duh. And I guess I hadn't, it's crazy. I was like, oh, I got to come up with the name of the show. And she's like, duh, it's American Gumption is the name of your show. So I thought, all right, that's simple. And then I wanted to add, I made it the morning show to differentiate it from American Gumption, which is the website, the main brand, the big thing. So the American Gumption morning show fits underneath of American Gumption. All right, perfect. There it is. Up in the upper right-hand corner, we can see the American Gumption Morning Show logo. And here you got the American Gumption brand. So anyway, American Gumption is the main brand, and that's the one that everything else is going to revolve around. And one of the things that I'm doing behind the scenes is creating an American Gumption members website. And that is where all the show archives are going to be stored there. All of the little segments, as I do different, like Throwback Thursdays, or if I do my monologues, we might break out, or if I do a first-time guest, maybe I have all of those segments all grouped together, and it'll be an easy way for people to come and look at past shows, and there'll be a lot of cross-referencing where if a guest is on more than once, all that guests, their content can all be found together. And so the idea is that it's a very friendly back end or back place for you to find it. Now you'll be able to go to Facebook, or you'll be able to go to the different places that I broadcast from and see it. But I believe that by systemizing it or organizing it in a way that is easy for you to find, it will end up becoming a more valuable resource for you. And as I start traveling and living and working from the RV, and bring in that portion of it, maybe, and then the interviews that'll happen in person and the produced interviews, then those could be housed on the member site, or they might, maybe we end up with some kind of a TV station that holds those. And so again, I'll have a broadcast partner who is going to help me figure all of that out. And that's still to come. But for now, the member site is going to contain where all the content is. And one of the things that I do like to do, and I'm going to throw one more screen up here to share with you just a second. So the American Gumption morning show is here, and then these 30 to 60 minute virtual interviews are going to be taking place. And really, the way I see it is this will be more of an in-depth, casual, fun conversation, and the guest on the morning show will come on after they do this guest, and it'll be, we'll be a little tighter. We'll kind of know exactly what the best part of it is. But if you want to reference back to that, so those will be also placed on there too. So they'll be on that member site. So anyway, that's kind of the idea of the member site. I will be talking about that as time goes on, but for now, just know that it's coming. And yesterday I had a meeting with my technical people about that. So we're working on that. All right. Speaking Gump was my original brand, and that was launched back in 2008, 2009. The first website only lasted about 6 months, and then a new website was created in 2009. And so that and then version 3.0 of the Speaking Gump website happened in around 2013 and 2014 timeframe, and then it's been evolving ever since then. So Speaking Gump is really where I ended up writing. My original blog had about 500 articles. A lot of what I think and talk about today, as far as Gumption and the movie Life Lessons, that all originated in the Speaking Gump. So Speaking Gump will continue to be its own brand, its own website, and all the content that I produce there in the 2000 teens, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, that's all going to be stayed archived there. But we're bringing, more of that over here as this platform grows. So Speaking Gump will continue to be there. Now, currently I have a Change by Gumption portion of Speaking Gump. So that's a separate tab on that website. And I see this becoming its own website, just because this is going to be more. Speaking Gump is where if someone needs somebody to come in and deliver a message of optimism and hope and gumption, then I will be available for that. Change by Gumption is a little more of a consulting or a project basis, where an organization has some kind of a big change that they want going on, and they need some extra attention. They want their employees to be sold on the idea, not sold on the idea like, convinced to do something they don't want to do, but sold on the idea like, hey, this change is happening, and, where's your feedback? So then I would interview people and be able to be a conduit between the people actually affected by the change and the leadership that's deciding that this change needs to happen. So Change by Gumption is a way I work with organizations on a project basis. It might be a few weeks, or it might be a few months. So that'll be its own website. And Technology Gumption is kind of similar, although I see it a little shorter time frame. So it's a service that I offer, and it kind of falls underneath the Speaking Gump and the Change by Gumption. But it's that whole idea of mind mapping and laying out strategic processes and flows. And if I go back to this screen here, you can see that I'm pretty good at laying out like the way things fit visually. And so Technology Gumption is a way that I would be able to work with a individual or an organization, a founder of a company, the CEO, and map out what some kind of a process that they're having a hard time figuring out. And so I use Lucid Chart. It's just a drawing program, and I've been using it for about 4 or 5 years, but I used mind mapping programs for 3 to 5 years before that. So back in 2011, 12, I remember having all these ideas in my head, and I finally ended up, using with my iPad and using a mind mapping program and just laid it out. And what happened was I spent a couple days, you lay it out, and then the next night after dinner, you're sitting there, thinking about it, and you get the iPad out and you refine it. You look at what you wrote. And after about 3 or 4 days, I had it like dialed in. I'm like, that's exactly what I'm thinking. And so I started using it as these mind mapping and these drawing programs as a way to clarify my own thinking. And now I have the ability to work with others who need to clarify their thinking. And so I just want to see the big picture in everything I do. I love the big picture, and details I'm pretty good at up until the point where I understand the big picture. And once I understand the big picture, I don't have so much interest in the details. So I end up losing. I learned that lesson the hard way. I need others to help with the details once it's kind of the vision is laid out there. So anyway, that's Technology Gumption, or maybe it'll be Strategic Gumption is that service that I offer. Okay. I forgot to throw that back up there. All right. So that's Technology Gumption, and it might become Strategic Gumption. I'm not sure. All right. RV Gumption. I have a very clear vision on RV Gumption. I want to partner with some type of some retailer, manufacturer, service provider within the RV industry, because my intention is to live and work from the road for the next 4 to 7 years as I travel about, meet people, interview them, continue to do a morning broadcast for the foreseeable future. And while I'm out there traveling around, and my RV is going to have like a little studio in it, and where I can interview people, and where I can broadcast from, and where I can sleep, and where I can, cook my food. And so it's going to be a fun adventure. And what that RV looks like, other than the fact that it has some kind of a broadcast studio in, doesn't really matter. It might be a big, like Class A RV that has like a tow vehicle, or it could be like some kind of a truck that I tow the actual RV. And I've gotten a lot more clear that I will stay places for like a week or 2 weeks at a time, or a month. And so I'll move around, but I'll put myself in a place, especially if I'm going to be doing this morning show on a long-term regular basis. I'll need to more or less be stationary, but I'll move, it could be I could stay a place for a week, or maybe 4 or 5 days, and then go somewhere else for a couple weeks, and then somewhere else. So that's the vision that I have. And so RV Gumption will be about that lifestyle. And now there's a lot of RV people. If you go to YouTube and you end up Googling or putting in the search engine RV living or RV lifestyle, there's a bunch of people who talk about different styles and features and all that. And I might do a little tiny bit of that, but I don't see that the way I would like to probably interview those people and find out more about the psychology of living on the road and about producing their own content on a regular basis. And I've already met several people who are in the spiritual realm, who are coaches or trainers, or somehow have a business that they're running from the road. Those are the kind of people that I want to interview on RV Gumption. So those kinds of stories will get, will get housed in that RV Gumption space. So that's that idea. Now, bench Gumption. I mentioned on yesterday's show that I did a daily inspiration for just shy of 4 years, Montana Daily Inspiration. And I ended up getting the idea from Alan Cohen, who does a morning, sends out an email just called Daily Inspiration. And so I love that, because you open up this email and you have like this nice little message, and it's like uplifting, and it's thought provoking. And so when I created Montana Daily Inspiration, it was a picture of Montana, a lot of times like right outside the back door of the mountains, and then throughout the Bitterroot Valley and throughout places in Montana that I'd visit. And so I always had a picture, and 99% of the pictures turned out to be my own original pictures. And then there was a quote, and they weren't my quotes, but they were quotes by philosophers or spiritual leaders or business leaders, about being more conscious, being a productive person in life, living your own life, having a lot of freedom, and that you end up taking control. So I developed my own set of quotes that I really liked over the years. So I have that whole inventory ready to go. Now the bench part is obvious connection to the Forrest Gump, but it's what that has to do with is that Pinterest has benches, and they just kind of really nice looking benches that are sitting there in front of a lake, or in front of a mountain, or in front of a walkway in a park, or in front of the Eiffel Tower, or in front of anywhere that you can possibly imagine. And some of them look like that Forrest Gump bench, and some of them look like like benches that you've never seen, one of a kind. And so bench Gumption is going to be a combination of these images of a bench with a quote. And so it's short and sweet. And my idea here is that I will probably do a daily segment Monday through Friday as part of the American Gumption Morning Show, where I record these little snippets and I'll just do them live, but I'll have them planned out to where there's the quote, put it up, show the bench, and have a little tiny bit of an intro and outro theme, and that'll be it. And then afterwards, I can chop those up and share them to social media. So that's what Bench Gumption is going to be all about. All righty. Quantum. Man, I love quantum. Who's a physics fan? Who loves Einstein and Bohr and the whole quantum nature of physics? When I went to San Jose State, I had to take Physics 1 and then Physics 2 or Physics 1A or Physics 1B, whatever they called it. And there was calculus involved, and it kicked my butt. And I ended up, it was one of those things where I used the law of attraction and positive mental training for myself, where I said, I woke up and I went, I love physics. I love physics. I love physics. And I really, because I was like thinking I hate physics, but I just started saying, I love physics. I love physics. And by the end of the semesters, I actually was able to understand it, and I actually gained an appreciation for it. All right, fast forward. And then, you realize that Newtonian physics is like what happens in the physical real world, and quantum physics is really what happens underneath it vibrationally and on the elements. And there's that idea that everything below the speed of sound, works in Newtonian physics, and then the speed of sound hits, and boop, like quantum takes over, and things just jump around, atoms and electrons and waves and particles. And so anyway, I become a student of that science and how the thinking and the thought process, can transform things. And so quantum will be the quantum gumption will be any conversation that I have that, goes in that direction, from a science point of view or from a spirituality point of view. And really, it's a blending of those two that I'm interested in. Some of the hardcore scientists that I've gotten to know and they're like, oh yeah, but this doesn't really have anything to do with spirituality. I wonder if they really believe that, or if they're just kidding themselves and they're still stuck to be scientists. But anyway, that's my own opinion about that. So that's a fun one to explore, and that will be happening in the coming months. All righty. Global gumption is because we do not live in, our world has gotten small, right? That planet right there, we're all connected. We're all connected, and there are no coincidences. And so as I was getting ready to launch this the last few months, there was a moment in time when I went, oh my gosh, I can't call this American gumption. I have to call this global gumption. And I spent about a week thinking about that and going, do I really, American gumption is too small. It's global gumption. And then I thought, yeah, but I'm going to live on the road. I'm going to be in the United States, and I'm a fan of the United States. I think it's a great country, and I think, and I want to go out and meet the people. So anyway, I'm going to do global. I'm going to do virtual interviews with people from around the globe, and I have some interviews scheduled with some people who are international, and so they'll be coming up in the next, week or weeks from now. And so it's all, we're all connected. So global gumption will just be the acknowledgement that, it's not just the United States, it's the whole world. And so anyway, that's what global gumption is going to be all about. Same thing, only global perspective. And then finally, the last one is classic rock gumption. Born in 1958. So by the late 60s, I'm listening to what is become, classic rock today, or even, progressive rock and of course the Beatles. I have a brother 7 years older, a sister 5 years older. So they had albums, they're in high school, they're listening, their friends are coming around, they're listening to music. I'm in grade school, and I'm being exposed to the whole British invasion and all of the rock that came. And so as I went through my transformational period from 2009, and then in end of 2013, I had that like mind-blowing experience where I went, oh my gosh, everything I did in 2009 now makes sense. And I had a whole new vision of reality. In 2014, I ended up spending a lot of time listening to the old songs that I grew up with. And you've discovered YouTube and you go, oh my gosh, I can hear all these. And I listened to the albums. I had vinyl and I had three boxes of them that I got rid of last year. But, I had them and I would listen to those albums, but digitally I listened to them. I didn't actually pull out the old albums. And so I listened to all that old music again. And what happened was it reminded me of that time when I was free and when I was, I didn't have any, you're a teenager, you're listening to this stuff. It's like kind of that influential music of, your formative years. And it reminded me that I didn't have like a lot of expectations of what was going to happen. I had just dreams. And so it was like wide open. And so I thought, I wanted to go back to that kind of feeling. And so I ended up re-listening to all that music. Now, how does this have to do today? Here's my vision. And we're going to find DJs around the country who are classic rock DJs. And these guys know, like you listen to a classic rock station and they talk about, these old bands and they know all the details and this and that. Well, my vision is what if Forrest Gump and the DJ sit on the bench and we talk about the song, and I don't have to do anything other than sit there and do, is that all you have to say about that? Oh, that's a fine idea you have. That was sure good music. And, so like kind of make like a fun thing, but then have the DJ explain the song and what's going on. And maybe me share a little bit about how the song affected me. And then these like short little videos and then kind of overdub some of the music and part of it, and some pictures of the band and playing it. And so it's like a little produced mini video and it's all fun, but it's like, it's like people like this. And there's a big audience out there for classic rock music. So anyway, that's a vision. So I'm not going to pursue that in the short term. And I wasn't even going to include this in my original vision. But then I went, you know what? I should just include it because I think this is a great idea and I want to do it. So anyway, that's what Classic Rock Gumption is going to be all about. So those are there. There's more, but I dare not bite off any more until I take care of some of these. And so that's kind of what I'm planning to do. So that's it. That's the Gumption overview that I did. We're getting close to the top of the hour. So I'll just wrap things up and I'll let you know that coming up, there's going to be more interviews. I'm now scheduling interviews with people, and let's go back and share this screen here. And so I'm scheduling these interviews right now with people. And the idea here is that I have kind of a relaxed, just a conversation with them and we go through it and we record it and that will be housed on the member site. And then we bring them on right shortly thereafter into the morning show. And we do like a tighter little interview. So then you end up with two interviews and you hit the highlights during the morning show part. And this one's a little more in depth and, it touches on, we figure out what the highlights are. So that's the vision of how I want these things to work. And so the point I'm trying to say is that these interviews, the 30 to 60 minute interviews, they're being scheduled right now. I tentatively have one right after the show's over and we might have a guest tomorrow morning as a result of that. And so anyway, the point is that this is all happening in motion. And as this happens, and as I continue to have these, I'm going to fill my schedule up so that, getting a guest is not going to be a problem. It's like having a spot to fill a guest in is going to become more of the problem. So we might have to go to have two guests a day, and so that's the vision of where we're going. And I wanted to give you that update because, that first week, let's go back to this screen. The first week, I was just focused on doing the very, very, very first week. And then that anniversary show and just being a participant. And that was great. And I got to do that. And I got to meet the other host, and hear their stories a little bit and know who they were. And so anyway, at the end of the first week, I was like, woo. And then I was like, oh my gosh, now I got to get, now I need the long-term plan. So the long-term plan is to have these other interviews that I do in the afternoons and then bring these people back the next day or a few days later, and we do another interview, and we just keep the show going, and we fill it up with all this other stuff, and then eventually within the next few months or whenever, I get out on the road in the RV, and that's what's going to happen. So American Gumption is rolling, and all the other Gumptions, Speaking Gump and Change by Gumption, Technology Gumption, RV Gumption, Bench Gumption, yes, Bench Gumption, Quantum Gumption, Global Gumption, and Classic Rock Gumption. So those are the Gumption brands. So yeah, it's been a fun. Thanks for indulging me and let me share that. I figure I can take some of these video clips that I'm producing this week and last week and actually put them on the front of the different Gumption sites so that people will know what it's all about. So have a little clip of those things. So I got a lot of work to do technically, but the foundation's in place, and now the content's rolling in. So now it's a matter of just taking that content and finding the right places to store it, and then getting that membership site up and running so that people can come back and watch it at their leisure. We're doing this live show, and that's going to continue, but it'll be great if people can just come back and go to the website and spend, in the evening, spend 20 minutes and watch a few different clips here and there, see what they feel like watching. So that's the vision. So is that all I'm going to say about that? I think that's about it. So, all righty. Well, here what we're going to do is we're going to say goodbye. We're going to come back tomorrow, and we're going to do this all over again. So, folks, have a great day. Thanks for being with me today, and I'll see you tomorrow.